very warm and a pleasant afternoon, everyone. Thanks to all of you for joining us for today's webinar. I, Kanika Raheja, Faculty of School of Commerce, KCC Institutes, welcomes you all on behalf of KCC Institutes in the today's live session on the professional journey of our honorable guest, Mr. Mangu Singh, Managing Director of DMRC, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. Before starting the webinar, I would like to request our respected Director, Professor Dr. Bhavna Agarwal Madam, to welcome and introduce our distinguished speaker to our audience. Madam, please.
Thank you, Kanika. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, on behalf of KCC Institutes, I welcome you all in this webinar, The Professional Journey of Mr. Mangu Singh Ji, Managing Director, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. Sir, first let me say that KCC Institutes and everyone associated with are highly indebted and feeling inspired that you are with us, and on behalf of all, I extend a most respectful welcome. Mr. Singh graduated in civil engineering from University of Roorkee, 1979. He also received Master of Science, Sustainable Development. Mr. Singh joined Indian Railway Service of Engineering in March 1983. He has outstanding career of more than 40 years, construction of number of metro projects in Kolkata, Delhi, Jaipur, Kochi, Mumbai are to his credit. He is a recipient of National Award Railway 1996 and has been awarded with doctorate by Amity University and Modi University. He has also been awarded Eminent Engineer 2015 award by Institution of Engineering and Technology, UK. He has been awarded prestigious Distinguished Alumni Award by IIT Roorkee. He has also been awarded prestigious Green Champion Award by Indian Green Building Council. He has published, presented many technical papers in national and international journals and conferences. He is Fellow Indian National Academy of Engineering, Fellow Institution of Engineers, India, and Founder President, Tunnel Association of India. He is a member of Policy Board of UITP and also member of many institutions. So your dedication, perfection, sincerity, and of course your words are highly inspiring. And we are keen to know about your professional journey. I now request you to kindly enlighten us.
Thank you, Madam Bhavna Agarwal, for giving very kind introduction of me. First of all, let me compliment and thank KCC Institute for organizing this interactive session today. And I'm really delighted and happy to be with you all and sharing my experience of almost 40 years as a professional. And I will be really further very happy if any of my experience will be of any use to your students and to you, to the all faculty members. I have not prepared any formal or structured lecture. I will try to speak from my heart straight, and of course I will be confining to certain area which has been told to me by Mrs. Agarwal. I will start with my journey and will try to cover the entire 40 years, how and where I worked, and then switch to the real topic of urban transport and metro systems, the scenario in the country, and why it is necessary and what is the status currently in the various cities. Then I will talk something about the energy efficiency, which is an item I think, concern to all, everybody, because this is an item which relates to climate change, relates to energy crisis, relates to sustainability and all that. And then I'll talk about DMRC work culture, the journey of DMRC from 97 till now. So I'd like to cover these areas. So first of all, about me personally, people ask about my background, particularly the early background. So I am from a very humble background. I was born in a very small village in district Bijnor in UP. And there was hardly any facility available in the village. The nearest primary school was 3 kilometers. And therefore, there was no facility even for going to school. But somehow, my parents, they were very keen that I should pursue my study. They arranged a home tutor at home. And that is how I started my journey, then went to that nearest primary school, and then to the nearest town, that is Najibabad. It's about 6 kilometers from my village. So when I got admitted in class 6th, I was 9.5 years old at that time. Class 5 completed. And walking 6 kilometers every day was probably the best lesson I ever had in my life. There were no other means to go from village to the nearest town, particularly the 4 months during monsoon. So those difficult initial steps probably had been very, very useful in my life. Thereafter, even in the college where I was, the intermediate college, those nowadays we don't call them college, but it was college, intermediate college. There was hardly any motivation or any discussion or any talk of pursuing any career either in engineering or medical. The only aim probably which used to be taught was the passing class 10th examination, that is high school board, and then intermediate and things like that. I don't recollect anybody talking of going to engineering or medical in that particular college. So I completed class 12th and then admitted to the whatever best available was there, the degree college there. So I got admitted to the BSc there, and I completed BSc also. Till then, there was hardly any realization or any sort of a motivation to go out, pursue for engineering. But I think by that time, many interaction with many other students, I decided to do something, move out, and then that is how I applied for going to engineering and got admitted to IIT Roorkee, the then University of Roorkee. Completed my B in 1979. And then again, normally question asked from me, people ask question, why did you go to Indian Railway Service of Engineers, and why did you choose that? I think answer is very simple. There was a lot of prestige attached to service like Indian Railway Services. The status attached to that. And far from that, the authority attached to such posts and positions, the opportunity to do something for society, something for the nation, a lot of opportunities were there. And that is how I decided to go for engineering services and went to ultimately Indian Railway Service of Engineering. The central services, particularly like engineering services of railway, is really very challenging. And there are a lot of opportunities to learn many things. A young 21 or 22 years um, first posting of an officer after, of course, very vigorous 2 years training, on-job training and institutional training. You are placed at a very difficult location, large, huge responsibilities, managing huge manpower under you is really a very challenging type of thing. And as I mentioned, I learned many things in my initial days of working in railways. I like to narrate one or two incidents which ultimately I uh, took sort of clue, or you can say certain principle which I followed throughout my career and which has helped. The one most significant was in railways when I joined. The concept of mentoring. The senior officers used to mentor the junior, tried to help in every difficult situation. As I mentioned, the initial postings of class 1 officers of Indian Railways are really very tough, very difficult. And unless they are mentored by the seniors, uh, it is very, very difficult to grow in the organization. Indian Railway has very good tradition of mentoring the new officers. And I really enjoyed the support, the mentorship from my seniors, and therefore was able to grow myself. This is one thing I learned, that once you are higher in ladder, you have to show the same type of mentorship to your juniors, to your people down below. And that is very necessary for the organization as a whole. Another thing which I learned in my initial few days of posting is that in order to resolve the problem, the very first and important thing that you have to be near the problem. And the more you try to avoid the problem, more you try to solve it from a distance through somebody else, more is difficult to solve the problem. This I learned after 2 days, in fact, third day of my posting. I was posted at a place called Andal, a very small place, probably you might have not heard. It's a place near Asansol in West Bengal. Though this place is very small, but it's a very important place as far as Indian Railway is concerned. There are a number of coal mining in nearby area. You must have heard the Raniganj, Jharia, all that. So every day from these places, some 23 full goods train, 23 to 24 goods train full of rake, full of coal, used to originate from that place, Andal. It's a small place, but very big railway establishment. I was posted there as assistant engineer. And one of the important activity was to take the empty wagons to these all small sidings, place them there, and then draw the loaded coal wagons, bring them into the Andal yard, and make them in the form of big whole rake, full goods train, and start from there. And those days, steam engine used to take these empty wagons and then bring the loaded wagons to the yard area. So as I mentioned, on the third day of my posting there, it was the month of July 1984 to be precise. It was raining very heavily. And at 4 o'clock, I received a call from my boss in Asansol that in the loco shed from where the coal steam engines used to come out, and for your information for the young people, the steam locomotives, the fuel was coal, and therefore before they come out, the coal loading was the most important item. Unless the coal is loaded and water is filled in the tank, the locomotive will not come out. So I got a call at 4 o'clock that in the loco shed, there is a strike by the workers, the coal loaders. They have stopped loading the coal, and therefore outing of locomotives is stopped completely, which means empty wagons will not be taken to the sidings and loaded will not be brought to the yard. And the huge repercussion, the entire North India, the thermal power plants depend on this supply of coal. So it was my first posting, 2-3 days hardly. So I took it not very seriously. I said, yes. I talked to my junior. I asked them what to do. They told me some story. They said, sorry, sir, nothing can be done. It's raining so heavily. And that tomorrow morning we will do something. So I kept quiet. I was very young and not very serious about all these things. 6 o'clock, again I got a call that you have not done anything. The locomotives are not coming out. The entire railway is in a serious problem and you are simply enjoying. I was really puzzled what to do. Just 2-3 days of my posting. So I request, sir, please help me, tell me what to do. Well, the first thing, you go to the site, go to the place. So I immediately came out and went to the loco shed, where all those loaders, they were gathered, they stopped working. And before leaving my place, I told my inspectors that I am going to the site. So the moment I reached there, these people also came along with some 5-10 people. And after about 4-5 minutes, 10 minutes of discussions, the loading started. And the simple thing, their leader, he told to his people that you see your senior, such a senior person, the AN, he's standing here, he's also getting wet in the rain. And he's assuring you that from tomorrow we will do the repair to the shed was leaking badly. So believe his words and let us restart. So immediately the loading started and loco started coming out. I learned this very important lesson that I did not do anything there, but I went there. It had such an important impact. So since then I follow this principle. Whenever there is a problem, I am the first person to reach there, and then everybody will follow. So this is another thing which I learned. Another example I will cite, which again I learned a principle, is that it's more relevant for government working, but I suppose it will be equally relevant for private organizations also. That no place of work, no place of posting is inferior. Wherever you are posted, you have opportunity to show yourself, to show your capability to do the things. On the other hand, as a corollary, a so-called unimportant position. If you are posted at unimportant position, you have more opportunity to do. Because it is unimportant, nobody will bother you. Nobody will ask you what you are doing. And therefore you have a lot of flexibility. You can do many things at your own. You can take initiatives. So this I learned when I was posted at Calcutta Metro. If you are not aware, please search on Google. The Calcutta Metro, one single line of 16 kilometers took 25 years to complete. And the project was in such a mess. The product, there used to be lockdown for 2 to 3 years. The construction activity used to stand still. And any posting in that organization, it was part of Indian Railway, it still is part of Indian Railway. Any posting there was considered as dump posting, that you are dumped there. And it's really very frustrating when nothing is happening. No work goes on, lockdown, there's no urgency of work, nobody bothers whether the works are going on or not, no fund flows for such projects. So it really very frustrating type of experience. But when I was posted there, I realized that here is an opportunity that something can be done. And there are many such technical things, technical issues. I cannot go into those details, probably it will be very much boring to you. But I can tell you I was able to bring number of sort of reforms, number of new procedures where the works were expedited, works were streamlined. And then as a result of that, and another factor was there. The day I was posting there, and for that matter, anybody who is posted there, from the day one, he tries to go out because it's such a dumb posting, such a bad place of posting. So everybody tries. So I also tried my best to come out from the day one. But then I was told that you cannot be released from this place unless the entire project is completed. So that put another sort of a motivation to complete the project. So with all that, let me tell you, from 1975 to 1990, in 15 years, 750 crores were spent on the project. The total project cost was 1,500 crores. So in order to complete the entire project, another 750 crores were required to be spent. And I'm happy to tell you that from 92 onward, 92 to 95, in just 3 years, we spent 750 crore and completed the entire project. So I learned this very important lesson from there, that no place of posting is unimportant. You can turn that unimportant place into an opportunity. So this, I thought 2-3 of my experience will be of use to you. Then I moved to Delhi Metro. I was posted here in Delhi in 97, almost day one of Delhi Metro. The baggage of Calcutta, as I mentioned, a 16-kilometer line took 25 years. The entire city was put to inconvenience, lot of traffic restrictions, lot of interruption to the utilities, water supply, to sewer lines, the flooding. So the public was put to great inconvenience for long 25 years. So that baggage was with me when I came and joined Delhi Metro. And the very first question everybody used to ask that, Delhi will also become like Calcutta for next 15-20 years, whether metro can be constructed in Delhi, whether it will be really successful. But then again, the experience of Calcutta was very important. It was a very poor experience. Everything which could go wrong went wrong there. The design, the construction methodology, everything, it went wrong, but it gave me in person very important lessons, very, very valuable experience. And I therefore was fully equipped with the solutions and decided in Delhi, we will not allow people to suffer. We will not have situations like Calcutta. And I had ready solution for each and every problem which we faced in Calcutta. So, as I mentioned, the bad place of posting, poor locations, bad experience. But again, this is very valuable and we have used it in Delhi, and you all know how the projects have been executed in Delhi without much of inconvenience to the public, without any uh, delay and all that. So as you know, execution of such projects in big cities uh, is again a sort of a paradox. A metro line is required to be constructed on a road where the traffic is very heavy, and road cannot carry that traffic, and you need a metro there. It's already congested road, it's already heavily loaded road, and on that you come to construct a metro. So during construction, it's really a big challenge. You are working on a very heavily congested road through heavily built up area, and therefore number of issues of managing the traffic during construction, managing the pollution, the noise level, because the huge equipments will be working in that area. So all these are the big challenge, and we decided to do it in such a way that people do not face much of a problem. If I give you an example of one underground station, will require some more than 1.5 lakh cubic meter of earth to be excavated and transported outside the city, and almost 30,000 cubic meter of concrete to be brought from outside and placed. Then corresponding amount of steel, movement of machineries, cranes, equipment, labor. This will put additional load onto the city, uh, to the services, and therefore it is necessary to take care of all these issues. Large number of environmental issues, as I mentioned, noise, dust, groundwater, vibrations, and biggest is the safety and the keeping the utility operational. You know, in city roads, you find large number of utilities, power supply cables, the telecom cables, the sewer lines, the water pipelines, they all run below the road. And when you excavate to construct a metro line, there are always possibilities of damage to these utilities. So they have to be required to be taken into account. This has been done in a very professional and perfect manner. Now, I'd like to talk something about the urban transport scenario. You must be noticing that most of our cities are very congested. The traffic situation is very bad. And what to talk of big cities like Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore. Even the second or third level of cities like Lucknow, Meerut or Agra, Kanpur, they are also in a severe stress as far as the transport and traffic is concerned within the city. The people, place like Bangalore or Mumbai, during peak hours, morning, evening, the average speed on road is in single digit, 7 to 8 kilometers per hour. It can take any time 2 to 3 hours to cover a distance of 20, 25 kilometers in Mumbai and Bangalore. The situation is really very bad, very difficult. Why it is so? I've tried to analyze this. The reason being that after independence, for almost 50 years, we were only talking India lives in villages. Bharat Krishi Pradhan Desh hai. We used to be taught only this thing. And talking anything about town, talking anything about the city was almost a taboo. No politicians, no policy makers used to talk about urban. The urbanization was actually being denied. We really lived for almost 50 years after an independence that urbanization is not good. We should take all measures that the urbanization should not take place. And all policies were directed to see that the villages are improved, the facilities in villages are improved so that there is no urbanization. Without realizing that the urbanization is a natural phenomenon. You see, internationally, all the developed countries, the urbanization and development of a country is directly related. All the developed countries are almost 95% urbanized. And this was a reality which we did not recognize for almost 50 years. And Delhi Metro was the first realization towards any thinking of doing something for urban area. Thereafter, you must have heard the Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission of the government. And today we talk of smart cities. Think in 1960s, 70s or 80s, nobody used to talk of urban. The result was that when our cities were getting developed, these were haphazard. There was hardly any control. We did not bother about any control on the development of the cities. I want to give another example, then young generation will not believe. In 1982, I decided to purchase a two-wheeler, a Bajaj scooter. And I booked in 1982. And can you guess when did I get the delivery of my two-wheeler scooter? It was after 5 years, in 1987. So that was the scenario where owning or getting a motorized vehicle was so difficult in the country. There was hardly any manufacturing facility in the country for two-wheeler or four-wheeler. Now, the effect of that is that when our cities were getting developed, towns were getting developed, nobody realized that you will need wider roads. Nobody realized that you will need space for parking. I remember sometime in 80s when DDA in Delhi, they planned some area for development, and they decided to provide a scooter parking as a part of flat, DDA flat. Everybody said, what a good idea. Because at that time, nobody realized that every DDA flat owner in 2020 will have at least 3 cars. Today, a person, the family living in a DDA flat, they own at least 3 cars. So that was the scenario, and that is the reason why our cities are so congested and so this was the problem. As I mentioned, the first realization was Delhi Metro, and the phase 1 of Delhi Metro, 1997 to 2005, we completed 65 kilometers of metro network in Delhi. And after we completed first line in just almost 3.5 years time, Then people forgot about Calcutta. They then started believing DMRC. They started believing that this is an organization which main business, whatever they say, they deliver that. So, phase 1, 65 kilometer. Phase 2, 2005 to 2010, another 125 kilometer. It's almost doubled. The network in phase 2 was almost double of phase 1. The time available was almost half. Thereafter, now 2012, say 2018, 19, phase 3, we have further constructed about 180 kilometers. So phase 1 plus phase 2, 180 kilometers. Another 180 in phase 3. Now, again, the same question is asked. Today, we are running a network of about 390 kilometers. We have almost 2,400, 2,300 coaches. And you will realize if all the coaches are put one after the other, it will take around 40 kilometers. This is the number of coaches Delhi Metro has got. The coaches will occupy 40 kilometer length if you put all the coaches put together. We run almost 5,000 trains every day in Delhi. And before lockdown, we used to carry 60 lakhs passengers every day. And all that operation is 5,000 trips every day used to be performed with an punctuality figure of 99.7%. Meaning thereby that all the trains, 99.7% trains used to reach destination punctually. And the punctuality is defined as 59 seconds. Any train reaching destination later than 59 seconds of the scheduled time is considered as late. And with that definition, we have 99% trains running within 59 seconds of scheduled time. Now, the question normally is being asked that if that be so, when DMRC is able to complete all the projects within time and can run trains also punctuality with 99.7%. What is so special about the organization? So here it is what I will talk about DMRC work culture. You will appreciate that most important aspect, if we have to complete the project in time, if we have to run trains in time, punctuality. So most important aspect should be for any organization, and particularly organization like Delhi Metro, is the punctuality. Each and every person in the organization, every employee, every officer in the organization must have punctuality in his blood. It should be the very core attribute of everybody. And this is what is there in DMRC. We follow so strictly. There is no compromise as far as punctuality is concerned. And this comes from top. I personally ensure that I am in office before 9 every day. And I don't recollect any day where I am after 9 o'clock in the office, unless I am to go somewhere else, for a meeting directly. But otherwise, I am in office before 9 o'clock every day. All meetings start in time, dot in time. We are so particular about timing that even the politicians, the outsiders, they know that it is DMRC's program. And if we invite them, they can come in time. and we don't compromise on that. I'd like to give you one example of that. In one of our Foundation Day celebration, one of the central minister was the chief guest. And when I went to invite him personally as a formal invitation to him, he told that I mentioned to him that we are very particular about timing. He said, don't worry. Our function was near airport in the Manekshaw auditorium. He said, I will reach in time, don't worry. I will be coming from Ranchi directly to the airport, and since it is very near to airport, so I will come in time. So I sensed something. I thought he's coming from Ranchi. So I looked towards him, so he could understand. He said, don't worry, I'm not coming by a commercial flight, I'm coming by a chartered plane of my senior colleague. So then I realized that things are not in his hand. He's coming with somebody else. And if he is late, he will also be late. So I again was not very much happy with that. And I looked again towards him with some question mark on my face. And then I asked him, sir, please allow us to start the program in case, I'm sure you will come in time, but suppose you are late, you allow us to start the function in time. He had no other option. He said, yes, you start your program in time, I will join you. So we started our program right on dot, as scheduled, 7:30. And to our surprise, this gentleman came when our last item was going on. So he came, then I requested him, sir, please bless all of us. He went to the stage and blessed us, spoke for about 5-10 minutes and went away. So this is the level of passion as far as the punctuality is concerned. No compromise on that. Now, punctuality is not just for the sake of, say, being punctual, the organization, things are done in time. I have another explanation to be punctual. If you are punctual, you have lots of personal advantage, which I have personal advantage, which I will tell you why. I reach office in time, but I also leave also in time. So if you perform all your works within time schedule, you will finish also within time. If you create an environment around you, your colleagues, your people down below, to work within the time frame available, it will be possible for you to leave the office also in time. And leaving office in time does not, when I say to people that I leave office every day 6 o'clock dot, I leave it. Then sometimes people question, of course you can leave, you are MD of an organization, CEO of organization, you can leave at any time, whenever you want. Nobody is going to ask any question to you. But that's not important. The important is I leave at 6 o'clock, but I don't leave any work pending before me. I don't leave any paper pending at 6 o'clock. This has got great advantage, great personal advantage. If you don't leave any work behind you in the evening and you go to your house, to your home, without any baggage, without any worry, without any pending work on your head. So if I don't take any physical file with me to my home, don't take anything in my mind, so I'm free to think whatever I want to think. I have enough time to spend with my family. I have enough time for my social commitments, to my personal commitments. It's such a good thing personally to you. So being punctual is not only good for the organization, but good for you also. I tell everything to everybody this. And to create this type of environment, to create this type of situation in the organization is very easy. If I ask my colleagues, my people down below, to not keep anything pending with them, to clear everything every day, I'm not asking anything which I don't do. I ask my people that, am I taking abnormally more time to clear any file, to clear any proposal which is coming to me? Certainly no, nobody can say. And therefore, I'm not asking anything which is unreasonable. This has got a great advantage. Again, it's not enough that you come to office in time, you complete your work in time. Organization like Delhi Metro, we have to take decisions, big decisions, decisions involving huge financial implications, the contract matters, the tenders. There are many big decisions are taken, and any hesitation in taking decision will delay the thing. So there has to be a scenario where there is no hesitation, there is no delay in decision making. And for that, what is necessary is the integrity. You cannot take decisions fast. You cannot take decisions without hesitation unless you are morally and internally very strong. And therefore, this is another important aspect in the organization which we cultivate. The integrity is given top premium, is a priority. There is no compromise on integrity. I can compromise anybody when we select somebody in the organization. Anybody lacking in knowledge, lacking in efficiency, that can be tolerated. It can always be improved upon. But if somebody is having bad habits, somebody is not above board, his integrity is doubtful, we simply don't take him. It is not tolerated at all. So, in this country, you must have seen even very important areas like defense, any deal, any contract done, immediately there are fingers pointed out from different sides. But here in DMRC, we take decisions day in, day out. We finalize tenders within hours, not taking long time. This is another important factor of the success of DMRC. Not taking decision is the worst thing. Taking decision, even if it's wrong, it goes in the favor of the organization. Even if the wrong decision is wrong, it can be corrected the moment you come to that is wrong. But if you don't take decisions, it will be a worse thing for the organization. Therefore, taking decisions, going ahead with conviction, with confidence is another key important area. And there are a number of examples where our such decisions have been helpful to the organization. Now, sometimes people ask me a question that you take such very strong decisions, very hard decisions, and don't you fear any time from vigilance, audit and CBI and things like that? So I always have this experience. I always say this, that till such time you are taking decision in the interest of the organization, your conscience is clear. You are not taking decision for your personal benefit. You can always defend that at any place, at any forum. And till such time your conscience is clear, you have not done anything wrong, you have not to worry, you have not to hesitate, you take decision and go ahead. Now, in spite of that, there can be a situation that somebody can be after you. You can be really what sometimes people call कि फंसा दिया गया किसी को फंसा दिया. That's yes possible. But I again give a similar example of now every one of us come to road. Either you drive yourself or your driver drives. But there is always possibility that you can be killed on road in a road accident, even if it's not your fault. Somebody else will can come and hit you, and you can get killed. But simply because there is a risk on road, you don't stop coming to road. You are coming every day. You are coming onto the road. So same way, if in taking good decisions, in taking decision in the interest of the organization, if you suffer, you suffer. Your bad luck. For that, you can't do anything. But you will not have any regret for that because you have not done anything wrong. So it is very important. And the reputation DMRC has created in the society is that people believe us, people have faith in us. We are 100% government body, 100% all, even every single paisa is public money. Any single paisa spent is actually public money and is prone to scrutiny by CAG, by CVC, by Parliament, by anybody. It's there. But then it's a question of reputation, creating reputation in the society, that we go at a very fast speed and complete the works in time. So I think I have tried to cover my personal some experience, something about metro system. I have not gone into the details of technicality of the system. I'll just mention one more issue of, again, the dealing with the suppliers, dealing with the contractors in the MRC. Since entire success depends on the success of the agencies, the contractors, we have a very practical approach towards the contractor, which is different than typically you find in the government organization. In the government organization and in society in general, unfortunately, contractor is seen a person who is only to loot the country. The word "thekedar" is not a good term in the society. People feel thekedar means here is a person who is only interested in taking public money or rather looting public money. But the fact is that if you are getting work done from the contractor is doing the business. He is creating something for you. He is constructing the metro line for you, viaduct for you. He is doing as a part of his business. And therefore, if he is interested in doing business, earning profit, there is nothing wrong in that. That's number one. And number two, when your success depends on his success only, it is therefore our responsibility to see that he succeeds. There are hundreds of ways to fail him, and particularly in government organization. If you stop his payment, his cash flow is stopped. There are many ways you can stop his payment. You can always find some way, some fault somewhere you can stop. And the moment you stop cash flow to a contractor, it's like supply of blood in the body. He will kill, he will not succeed, he will certainly fail. And if he fails, you also fail. Unfortunately, in our typical scenario, in many government organizations, if you see, you must have read in many news items and a person who is strict with the contractor is considered very upright. You must have read in many, so and so is very upright and very strict, punishing the contractor. But what is the result? Have anybody asked from him what is the result? Has he been able to deliver? So unfortunately in our system, there has been instances where contractors have failed because of the action on the part of the engineers or the managers. But nobody asks question from them. There are cases where the engineers and managers, they have been taken up, that they have sided with the contractor and helped the contractor. But nobody sees that what is the ultimate result. The many cases, because it's very easy to find fault with the contractor, impose penalty, terminate the contract, go for fresh contract. Nobody will talk anything wrong about that man, but he has not delivered. He has not completed the project. That sort of understanding, we don't follow that. We follow that we will not allow the contractor to fail. That is our fundamental principle. We will not allow him to fail. And therefore, all necessary support required by the contractor, all genuine support, genuine difficulties with the contractor, that need to be removed. Cash flow need to be maintained. So the bottom line principle is that the contractor must succeed. That is what we follow. He is our partner. And that is one of the important aspect, reason for our success of the event. So I think we have covered a lot. I'll now like to clarify any point if anybody wants to have this.
We have questions. Students have posted on Facebook as the session is live. So I asked Alsafa if she's a student of BBA program and moderator for this webinar. So continue with the questions.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, sir. We are enlightened with your words of knowledge. So there are some questions students want to ask. So the first question is, sir, what is the proudest moment in your life in this wonderful journey? What would you say about that?
These are very theoretical type of question. Every day you have you should find reasons to be proud. Every day you should find some reason that you are proud of. During my entire career, I have been able to do so many good things, probably because of the blessings of God, and the nature has given me the opportunity. I don't recollect any single moment of being very proud.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And the next question is, what are the 5 qualities of a successful leader that you want to share with our audience?
Yes, in fact, many of the things I mentioned today in my talk, I think there are there.
Yes.
The most important aspect is leading from front. You have to walk what you talk. You can't expect from your team members to do something which you are not doing. After the lockdown, when the government decided that the offices should reopen, and from the 20th April, very early after the lockdown, the decision was that office should reopen, but there was directive that people should work from home as far as possible. But me, being the head of the organization, I decided From the 20th April, every day without fail, I attended the office. From the 20th April, every day I am in office before 9 o'clock. Not even a single day. I could have worked from my home. I could have done that. Our work, our organization, maintaining the trains, this cannot be done from home. There certainly some works can be done from home, but we need people in the field. And therefore, it was necessary for me to sow. Immediately after 20th April, I went to the site. Unless I go to the site, people will not go. They will feel hesitating. So, leading from front and walk what you talk is the most important thing.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And the next one is what has been your experiences with the airport metro? Is it financially sustainable?
The projects like metro, when people talk about financially viability, it's not, these are not aimed at financial viability. There are more benefit other than the financial viability, the indirect benefit to the society, the economic benefit. Um, they are, in fact, an independent study conducted by CRRI. It was for monetizing these indirect benefit. And they really found that metro projects, the return is as high as 23%. That means the investment is back to the society in just about 4.5 years' time. It benefits on account of pollution reduction, benefit on account of reduction in accident, benefit on account of saving in the fossil fuel. We mostly depend on the import on those. So many benefits are there. Now, coming back to the airport line. Now, the airport line was conceived in a slightly different fashion. The government invested on the infrastructure part, that is the tunnel and viaduct and the station. And no return was expected on that. Government never wanted a return on that because this is a social. And only the private player, he was asked to come, install the systems and operate for time. Even this was not found viable by the party, that party. And we had to break midway. And today we are operating with full efficiency airport line. That matter is still sub judice in the court.
Okay, sir. And the last one is what a Delhi Metro MD would love to do in a free time. I think our audience would really keen to know this.
Repeat.
What a Delhi Metro MD would love to do in his free time.
In free time? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
I have a lot of free time with me. As I mentioned, I leave office 6 o'clock. I don't come to office on Sundays. Don't come to office second half of Saturday. So I mostly remain at my home both Sunday and half day of Saturday. I really don't enjoy going out, going to market. I just try to relax 1.5 day. I think that is very necessary to recharge you. And also one more aspect you will realize that task of a person like me doesn't need to be in the chair. I mean, I can keep on thinking, keep on visualizing, forecasting, what can happen next week, what can happen next month, what we should do. This keep on working whenever is there. So I don't have any fixed agenda except relaxing. That's all. Don't do anything. I keep things very simple, very simple.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was such a knowledgeable session for each one of us. Now, I would like to request Kanika ma'am to end the session with a vote of thanks.
So, as we have such a long list of questions, but we know that you have other appointments too. So, we would be mailing you the questions to you. So, we have had an extremely useful day today. We all are very much indebted to you, sir. And I feel that all of those who have attended this discussion will be motivated by your journey. And your thoughts have enlightened our minds and have shown us a new path to achieve success in our life. Once again, I thank you, sir. Thank you on behalf of the KCC Institute. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you being here, and we will see you again in our next webinar.
Thank you very much. I'm really very happy the way the entire session has been conducted. And in fact, I was a bit apprehensive. I told Vijay to talk to Bhavna madam, and it's really very, very smoothly, very nicely this has been done.
Thank you so much.
I must congratulate you and thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Your words are really important for us. Thank you.
Thanks.